our community. And as I look around and I look at it, looking at RFK Stadium, which is in dire need of repair, and it's a lot of land down here that we could do a lot with as a community, as a city in whole. I'm looking at affordable housing, or the creation of jobs first. Affordable housing, recreational areas. We have a river back there, that's have already been dredged, so it's pretty safe. Looking at a community, something for the senior citizens, and this area has really come a long way. But this is a great opportunity to let me speak here, and I'm looking around at things that how big this area is, and a lot of potentials here, a whole lot of potentials. Not only will it create immediate jobs for construction, it will also create jobs for the community. And with no further ado, I'd like to introduce our mayor, Mayor Bowser, who's the greatest mayor in the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. And I want to thank you, Mr. Jones, for being here and your wonderful perspective on Hill East. First Ward 6, now Ward 7. And I want to give a hearty welcome to everybody who's here. You're going to hear from some members of my team. You're going to hear from Councilmember Charles Allen. And we are here to welcome some folks haven't been to Hill East and haven't seen the wonderful development and homes that have been created here. And we want to thank you for being here. I think you can also see the potential that this site holds. Nowhere else in the district will you see so much untapped land and untapped potential. You will remember that in 2019 we celebrated the opening of the fields at RFK, where we saw 27 acres of asphalt become 3 playing fields, a playground, and other amenities. Now, when you come here on the weekends or evenings, you see kids and their adults playing. You also see birthday parties. You see the community really coming together. And I know Councilmember Allen will have more to say about how that was one realization of a community vision. But sadly, what you also see is a crumbling stadium. And you see a parking lot next to more parking lots and some more parking lots. And you see 190 acres of empty grass and asphalt. And we know as a city that has to change. In a city of 700,000 people, where we're using every tool at our disposal to create more housing, get residents connected to jobs, and make sure that people have access to engaging activities, we can't afford to have this land sit unused. So one thing we're doing that is within our control is adding funding to this site. Much like we did with the fields, there is a local investment in RFK while we are working on what we know we need, and that's total control of the land. This $60 million investment that is included in my budget proposal to the council will also create something that the district is in much need of. That's an indoor sports facility where there will be indoor track and gymnastics and swimming and other sports and recreation activities that currently our kids are going outside of the district to participate in. This will create new opportunities for people to train, people of all ages, and it will be a wonderful citywide amenity. And I consider it a down payment on what's next for the campus. But to truly reimagine and reactivate this space, we need the federal government to transfer RFK to the district. We have proven many times that the district can make better use of underused federal land and put it to productive use. We've done it at St. Elizabeth's East, the Navy Yard at Franklin Park, and Walter Reed and of course the wharf. And our Congresswoman has been instrumental in making sure that all of those transfers happen. And I know she's working very hard on this one too. So we're here to celebrate this activation and also to think about what's to come. We have also invested into the conservation of the Kingman and Heritage Islands, and for good reason. They're beautiful spaces, again, citywide amenities. My budget proposal to the council also includes an investment to connect the RFK parcel to the Kingman and Heritage Islands. And it is an $18 million investment for pedestrian and bicycle facilities. And just to the north of us, to the north of where we're standing now, we are continuing to develop the old DC General Campus. We are investing $250 million with this budget proposal to transform the DC jail complex as we know it. That $251 million will allow us to build a new treatment and rehabilitation annex to the current DC jail, and it will eventually allow us to tear down the oldest portion of the jail. And what we are all focused on in the district is how to make that facility one where our residents can be rehabilitated, receive the treatment that we need, and most importantly, as the sun comes out, peeks through, come back home. And come back home to their families, ready to work, and ready to be leaders in their community. So I wanted to let you know that is what the portions of our budget that the council is considering as we speak that impacts the Hill East community. So with that, I want to turn to our adjacent council member, Councilmember Charles Allen. And Charles will be followed by Deputy Mayor Falchicchio. You're going to meet and speak with the director of the D.C. Department of Corrections, Director Tom Faust, and the director of Fun, as he likes to be known, Delano Hunter, who is the leader of DPR. So with that, Charles.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. And good morning. Good morning. It's cold. Very glad to be here. Now, Billy, as you noted, Ward 6, Ward 7. Now, Ward 6 feels a certain kind of way because this used to be Ward 6, and then there's another part of Ward 6 now, Ward 7. But as the Ward 6 council, let me tell you, Ward 6 is committed to work in partnership with our Ward 7 colleagues as we think about the future of this site. And you're exactly right, Madam Mayor. There's really only a handful of places you can even think of where we have the opportunity to build more city, to build more housing, more affordable housing, bring new jobs, new parks and green space, and be able to connect to the Anacostia River. So it creates such an amazing and unique opportunity, and I'm really grateful for the investments that are coming here. In particular, I'm really excited about something that's in the mayor's proposed budget, and that is something I fully plan to support, which is the investment in that recreation facility that she talked about. For those of us, and a lot of us, we gathered at St. Coletta's and with Events DC with these planning charrettes to help think about what our community needs. This type of facility that provides swimming, track, gymnastics, all the things the mayor described is a hallmark of what that community put forward. And I'm really excited to see that in this investment. It is a community-serving purpose that is something to be welcome for kids, families, seniors, for everybody. And it's going to be a great investment for our city, and I'm enthusiastic and excited about that. And then also as not only the Ward 6 council member, but the chair of Judiciary and Public Safety, working with Director Faust and his team as we reimagine what that facility can look like. This is an investment, as I said when the mayor presented it. Let's just be honest. Politically, you can put your money into parks and recs and schools and a lot of facilities. It takes some courage to put the money into rebuilding a facility with the Department of Corrections. It just does. And this is a significant investment it's an important and necessary investment to make sure that we have the facility that meets our values and our needs. And I'm really glad that we see it in the budget. A lot of work and a lot of devil in the details to continue, but it is an important marker to put into the budget to see that recommendation moving forward. So I'm excited about these investments, Madam Mayor, and it's something that I know that I'm looking forward to partnering with you, with all of our neighbors and our community on. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll bring up John now.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Councilman. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So we're going to hear in a moment about a new jail. We're going to hear about a new sports complex. I get to talk about infrastructure. Oh, that should be more exciting. So what the infrastructure allows us to do is it allows us to do what you see behind you. So behind you, you see the first phase of Hill East. And that first phase includes 260 units of housing, as well as this building here. So it's one phase, two buildings. This building here, which is 100 units of permanent supportive housing. So with Mayor Bowser's Fair Shop budget, there's a $79 million investment to make sure that the land that we're standing on right now and the land that stretches out all the way almost to the river is housing, is retail, is parks, and all the other amenities that will keep making this neighborhood vibrant. So when you think about so when you think about all the great things they're going to describe in a second, my colleagues in the cabinet, they are great. But what this investment does of $79 million is it allows us to keep adding to our housing goal, the 36,000 by 2025. On this site itself, this is 67 acres. The next phase, phase 2, will deliver 2,300 units of housing. And what Mayor Bowser did was she made sure that we did this through an equity RFP. That means that the organizations or businesses that will be leading the redevelopment of this site are led by people of color. It also is an approach that we took to make sure that this site would be a third. Sarosh Odpadwala is our director of real estate. He's up here. He worked hard and continues to work to negotiate with the teams to make sure that they make that commitment, that 60% of the units, or excuse me, a third of the units are at 60% and below. A third of the units are at below 120%, and then the rest, the other third, are market rate units. So at this site, we're going to invest $79 million. We're going to bring over 2,300 units of housing. We're going to do it with organizations led by people of color, and we're going to make sure that the housing that's delivered here is a third. That there's folks at affordable levels, at that essential housing, that workforce level, and then at market rate as well. So that's what we're excited about. I think it's the most exciting announcement we're making today. And what we want to do, thank you. So you guys, you have some competition. And what we want to do, though, is, like the mayor said, that land behind us, right, where you see that rusting building, we want to make sure that if we could take 67 acres and deliver nearly 3,000 units of housing, think what we could do with 190 acres. So what we are saying to the federal government is give us the ball, and we'll run with it, right? So that's what we want to do. That's what we're here to talk about today. And with that, we'll talk about some of the exciting elements that are going to happen here on the Hill East campus and the investments that we're going to make on the RFK campus. We're not going to wait. So with that, I'll bring up Director Faust.
Good morning. This is exciting. It really is. I want to begin first by thanking Mayor Bowser for her commitment to public safety and justice, and for supporting the Department of Corrections with the FY23 budget that includes the capital funding for a new jail annex. I also want to thank the Department of General Services and Director Keith Anderson for being a great collaborative partner with us during this process, particularly as we move forward. Again, as I've said, this is a very exciting time for the future of a rehabilitative and treatment-based correctional system here in the district. The complete design and construction of the Correctional Treatment Facility Annex will begin with planning and programming into this FY23, and with design and construction starting through FY26, utilizing the capital budget that the mayor has put forth of the $251 million. The other exciting part about this is a solid baseline already exists in the current central treatment facility, which we will be essentially adding on to, in which upon a rehabilitation and treatment-oriented care and custody regimen can be initiated. And
we will transition toward closing and discontinued use of the aging Central Detention Facility. This new facility will represent our focused commitment to the rehabilitation of our residents by increasing physical space for educational and vocational opportunities and programming and rehabilitative services. We will continue providing substance abuse, behavioral and mental health treatment programs, and reentry supportive services to address the respective needs of residents within the facility. A new and modern space will allow us to elevate and enhance the services provided to residents. It will also bolster staff work environment, safety, and wellness. The new facility would house up to 1,000 residents, which would enable the eventual closing of the Central Detention Facility. Within the mayor's 6-year plan, there is over $25 million dedicated to the ongoing capital improvements to the CDF and CTF, inclusive of $3 million for the CDF and CTF during FY23. DOC recognizes the importance of housing our residents safely, humanely, and with respect, now and in the future, and we appreciate the mayor's strong commitment to this and look forward to what will be a transformational investment for the district and our correctional system. Thank you, and now I'd like to kick it over to Director Hunter with DPR.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Delano Hunter, and I'm proud to serve as the Director of Parks and Recreation, and we're really excited to bring fun to this site. As has been mentioned, they're bringing infrastructure and housing and rehabilitation, but we're excited to bring fun to this campus. I often state that Washington, D.C. has the distinction of being named as having the best parks system in the nation by the Trust for Public Land, which I'm really excited about. And it's often a sore spot. Folks will say, well, they're referring to the federal government. But in actuality, they cite the local investments in our pools and our spray parks, our dog parks, our community gardens, and those great things that help to bring communities to life. But if there was one glaring weakness, it was the need for a multiplex. At the agency, we have some of the best and most competitive boxing programs and cheer programs in the nation. Our athletes are often ranked nationally. They compete in international competition, and they always have to travel. We never have an opportunity to host because we just don't have the facilities to support it. And it has been a glaring weakness within our inventory. And every major jurisdiction has this, but we strongly believe that our youth ought to have the opportunity to have those same amenities provided to them. So we're really excited, and we're grateful to Mayor Bowser for her vision. On any given weekend, you'll see we're spread out throughout the city, and while we have a great inventory, we're very proud of our inventory, it's nestled in communities in a way that doesn't allow for citywide competition. So this will be an opportunity to bring us all together where we aren't taxing communities with some of our own citywide events, but also bring regional and national tournaments here to the district. So we're really excited about bringing 350,000 square feet of recreation here. It'll provide an opportunity for us to have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, to launch new programs. I'm really proud of the programs that we plan to launch in support of women's and girls sports. I'm also really excited about that, and this will be a game changer for us here in the district. So looking forward to engaging the community, working with Events DC and DGS, and of course, the community to deliver the type of asset that we all can be proud of. So without further ado, I'll turn it back over to Mayor Bowser.
Thank you, Delano. Thank you. Well, that was a lot of investment, a lot in store for this parcel and adjacent parcels, and we're happy to take a few questions. Yes, sir.
Any hope, and how hopeful are you that the feds are going to turn that monstrosity over to the district?
I'm hopeful about it. The thing I've learned about working with the federal government on land transfers, and I've been involved in a number of them as a council member, as the former chair of the Economic Development Committee, and now working many years on this one, is that we just keep pushing forward In some cases, we have gotten exactly what we wanted. In other cases, we worked on different type of modified agreements. But this is the thing we know about the National Park Service, who has the responsibility for the nation's parks. That they simply aren't funded in a way that they can make the types of investments that we can make here at RFK. One pitch I gave to one of the lawmakers is, do you want the only memorial to RFK in the district to look like this? That's on the Congress. We can do better. Yeah. Please introduce yourself. Mm-hmm.
About the new jail, it seems like some of the recommendations in your budget proposal relied on the Jails and Justice Task Force. Will you talk about how closely you looked to their Phase 1 and Phase 2 reports, and whether you'll commit to the rest of what they outline, like dramatically reducing the size of the incarcerated population in D.C.?
We looked at we've taken a lot of feedback from a number of sources. I can't say exactly. Maybe Faust would want to talk more directly to those recommendations. But what we know is that we need a new complex, and we, I think, are planning for the new annex to serve 600.
Yes, it is closely following a lot of those prior recommendations in terms of we're moving toward a single facility solution for corrections here in the district, which follows those recommendations closely in terms of that. Again, it's going to be a very transformative, but yes, at the end of the day, it's also going toward what will be a smaller footprint overall for the corrections system.
Yes.
John, I was interested. Oh, thank you. I was interested in what you
address me.
Okay. The comment about what we can do with 190 acres there at RFK, yep. I was hoping to hear more about your vision for how you would use that space, whether the commanders are interested in bringing a stadium back here, or whether there's not a stadium.
Well, we have spent, and the council member talked about the many community meetings that Events DC has hosted. And there are plans that include an NFL stadium and ones that do not. What we know is that with 190 acres, it will be a mix of uses. So long will be gone the days of having a stadium surrounded by asphalt. So it will include housing, it will include other commercial development, parks, recreation, and better connection to our river. You heard Mr. Jones say, back there's a river. And that's how we've treated the Anacostia. Back there's a river. So we need to connect our development, everything that happens here, with the beauty of our river. Yes, Sam.
Okay. So is DC going to be competing with Virginia for the football team?
Look, Sam, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. Okay. We have the best site. Everybody knows that. Where the football team played for years and years and were successful, by the way, was right there. It is connected to the highways. It is connected to the metro system. It's a beautiful view of the United States Capitol. We already know we have the best site. But we also have the best site that's going to include housing, retail, jobs for DC residents. And a few weeks ago, I was in New York. Somebody asked me about this question. And what I said was DC residents, our need for housing, our need for recreation, our need for jobs, it can't wait. So we know what we have. We know what we have been able to do with the National Stadium and with the DC United Stadium. But that's not really the focus of what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now is the district's willingness to go first with our money. We're also talking about the Congress's need to make sure that we have control of the land and the ability to use our local dollars to transform that lot. The discussion further about what will happen on the site is one that is a local discussion that will happen with our communities, with my office, with the Council of the District of Columbia. But what we're talking about right now is the district's willingness to put, on top of what we've already done with the fields, to put an additional investment in for local activities on this site.
That he wouldn't get into a bidding war with anybody to keep a stadium. And I guess that's my question. Would you get into a bidding war, assuming you get what you need here to put one here? Would you be open to that?
I've said all that I can say about my interest. And I think that big cities have their teams. I think we have the best site, and I think there's a lot of interest around the city in having our team back, but not at any price.
And one other thing, when is this coming down? Because, I mean, we've been talking about it for years. I thought it was coming down some years ago or time ago.
We really do want to get control of the site. And Events DC will have a plan to take it down. They actually, I think, have put it off because of the pandemic. But that will get back on track. But it would be better, quite frankly, if we had control of the land and had some uses in mind.
And so it's 67 acres here and 190 over there?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Mayor, asking just if you don't get control of the 190 acres over there, what is DC allowed to do with that land if it's still technically federal land?
Well, first of all, we would have to ask ourselves, what interest would we have? It's going to take, John mentioned $78 million in infrastructure work just on this parcel. The infrastructure work alone is probably going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And in order for us to justify using our local tax dollars to make that kind of investment, we also have to be able to spin off some revenue for the district. So it is necessary that we get control so that we can invest our dollars in the parcel. What the current lease allows, to specifically answer your question, are sports and entertainment, or sports and recreational activities, I should say.
You just follow that kind of line of thinking. If the feds don't give you control of that land, as they did over here with Reservation 13, are you prepared to make any investment at all over there if you don't have complete control over it?
It would be difficult for me to justify hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure investment that didn't contribute to our economy. Yeah. Yep.
From my understanding, the funding for construction, more than the initial $500,000 allotted toward design, the real millions of dollars that come to construct the new facility, that's not until at least FY26.
That's correct.
The construction plans are supposed to start earlier.
That's correct.
So how does that work timing-wise? And I could also have Chairman Allen talk about the timing a little bit and how you feel.
Sure. I'll turn to Charles.
The way that the budget's been proposed is that the funding that comes in the next fiscal year is for the planning and design. We know that's going to be extensive, and it's going to take a lot of collaboration, a lot of stakeholders to map out exactly what those final designs and decisions are. Then the capital dollars come a couple of years later, and we know that's going to be significant. I know in talking with Director Faust, he feels very confident in that timeline. I'd love to see if there's ways to be, to move that up, but I also recognize that that planning process is going to take some time, and so we evaluate where it lines up in the capital budget, which right now I believe is the FY26 capital budget.
On actually building?
I think it'd be premature to set a date, but in terms of the capital budget being in FY26, at least as proposed, that would be your rough timeline of when you'd see groundbreaking.
Madam Mayor, so it seems like in Congress at least, even Democrats, they don't want to give control of the site because they see Dan Snyder likely potentially getting a piece of it. How do you make the case that this is a local control issue if again, you're saying this is a great site for a football stadium, but there seems to be no interest to giving Dan Snyder a stadium here?
Well, that is kind of at the root cause of why we argue for self-determination. It's the same reason that they use for denying us the ability to tax and regulate marijuana that's affecting public safety in our city. It's the same reason that they kept us from a needle exchange program that would have saved lives in D.C.
How is the lobbying going for that then? I mean,
How is what?
How is the lobbying going?
It continues. It continues. But similarly, you point to talking about one team owner. We had the same arguments with them over Franklin Park that had no controversial owner. So I don't want to be distracted by individuals when we're talking about putting land into productive use. And I really think nobody can argue that the investments of local dollars that we put into Franklin Park have made a huge difference in the downtown. Yep.
Clarity on this recreational facility,
Yep.
right? So is there a timeline on it? Are we waiting to get control? Because I understand our lease runs out in 2038. So that's
We have,
16
can you
years.
remind me of when it's in the budget, Delano?
Sure, we have $3 million for planning in FY26, with construction capital funding to follow in the future years, in 27.
So what we would work on is some type of agreement, if it's necessary, with the National Park Service on that use.
Why the decision? As recently as 2019, our outgoing Events DC president told me that we wouldn't work on anything past the fields until we were sure we had secured an extension of the lease or control. Why now? Why this now?
I think it's important that we advance and we make some progress on the parcels. Yes.
So there have been issues reported at the jail, serious issues since at least 2015. And so why now invest so much money in building a new facility? Some people are saying it's because of the marshals and the January 6 defendants who were incarcerated. What would you say to those people?
The construction of a jail, you just referred to a report that was far in advance of that. We've been talking to community leaders for many years about where we need to go with the construction of the jail. I think there was a proposal at some time to build a huge complex, to move the facility to another location. So we've really kicked the tires on all of the ideas, and I think we have landed in a very good place that's going to allow us to build the annex and then start moving into that annex and eventually demolish the older part of the jail. So it's been, the idea has been percolating for a long time.
At the fields, is that federal land? I wasn't clear. Is the new center that's being built, is that on federal land?
It's proposed for the RFK site.
Okay. Can I just that's like 5 years out. Like, why is it taking? Why not make that happen sooner? I mean, people are thinking, the mayor wants to propose a new sportsplex, but it's going to take like 5 years or 6, 7 years. It seems like.
Well, are you familiar with our budget process for capital? Let me explain. It's a multi-year process. Frequently, what we have done in my administration is use at least 2 planning years for community outreach and to develop designs and then to fund it. And so it can, and as the budgets go for next year, I could propose to move it up or move it back depending on how that outreach is going. But rarely, sometimes it happens, not usually from us, but sometimes it happens that something is budgeted in its entirety for the next year. But rarely does it work out that way. It's a couple of years of design, engagement, funding, and construction, typically.
Housing to the river. I mean, when can we?
Sure. Let me ask John to come up and talk a little bit more about Hilly's Phase 2.
So for Hilly's Phase 2, there were actually 2 awards to 2 different teams that are going to revitalize a couple of the parcels. So right now we are in negotiations with those teams. We'll send those packages to the council for final approval, and then we have some work to do on the infrastructure. So that $79 million is over the next several fiscal years. And so as we do that infrastructure work, we'll be able to start delivering on some of the parcels. So over the course of the next 4 years, we'll be able to have some of the buildings coming out of the ground, some of the housing delivering, but this is a multi-year project to, like I said, deliver the next phase, which is 2,300 units. Yeah, if you went straight out this way towards down Massachusetts Avenue, towards the end of Massachusetts Avenue, there's a road. There's a small piece that between the end of the road and the river that actually is National Park Service. But you could, not to Sarah Palin it, but you could see the river from the district line.
I was just reminiscing, I guess I'll say, with Charles. I think when Charles and I were first elected, this was all the neighborhood could talk about. Why wasn't Hill East moving? When was Hill East going to happen? What was happening? What was happening? So part of what we did was to deliver these parcels separately under different awards, which allowed us to do the infrastructure for the first phase, and let the market show everybody else what the site could do and be. And that's what we're saying. Yep. Yes, last
I
question.
apologize. I'm confused. Could you clarify? Because before the briefing, we were told that the sports complex was going to be on this side, on the north side of the campus, on land DC currently controls. It's going to be on the federal land, the proposed sports complex?
Yes.
So then that takes me back to my original question when you said you're not willing to put hundreds of millions of dollars into infrastructure.
That won't take hundreds of millions of dollars.
But you are willing to put tens of millions of dollars onto land that you don't control?
Well, we already did that with the sports fields that you see.
And so do you know where it would go over? Does RFK have to come down in order for the sports complex?
I doubt. It's 190 acres there, Mark.
And so if the sports complex go over there, it'd still be room for an NFL stadium.
There'll be room for a lot of things. But that's 100. Look, hey, if we say this is 70 acres, 190, it's a very big parcel that's there, and it will allow for a lot of development. And just to give you another kind of reference point, Walter Reed is like the portion that we're developing is just over 100 acres. So you can see all the hundreds of units of housing being built there, a grocery store being built there, pool. I mean, that's a lot of development that can happen in that space. So I'm sorry to confuse the issue, but it's a little different to say that we can build this, and then by the time we build it, this whole issue can be resolved. So this is one step that I think that DC residents and taxpayers are very excited to make a down payment on. Okay, thank you, everybody.
We now return to our previously scheduled program, already in progress.